I had a lot of really good mindsets when it came to sports growing up, but it's very different when you compare it to bring that mindset over to school or to work. And something in sports that I always learned was there'd be times I look back and kind of have some regret about always wishing that I would have done more to get a better result than I had. And so I think that's what kind of really stuck with me, and what really kind of transferred over to my school and my work life was really just being able to kind of sit down at the end of each day and look at what I did throughout that day, and kind of looking forward to the next day as well too. That by the end of the day, whether that's 6 months from now, a couple of years from now, I don't look back at the effort or the work ethic that I had or how I spent my time and have any regret about that.
Welcome to the show. Please hit the subscribe button. We love our listeners. We love our listeners that subscribe even more. And we got a good one for today. Lots of hidden lessons that will work for any age group at any time in their career. We got Frank Guimont on, junior hockey player, finance degree, record breaker at work. He's going to get into making the most of the time others waste. He's going to talk about raising the bar on who you compete with, but ultimately it's yourself you should be competing with. And my favorite, enjoy the process, release the outcome. Karma Yoga, we got a great show for you. Welcome to the Edge of Excellence. Well, Frank, I know you're a super busy dude, working on your finance degree, setting records in your job, having a great social life. Thank you so much for making time to come on the show and share your wisdom with the Edge of Excellence audience today.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Thank you for having me on.
Well, it's my pleasure. I love talking to you. I love hanging out on Zoom as much as I can, better in person. We're going to get into your whole life. But before we get into managing record-breaking years in the company, which you did one time, 31-year record. We're going to do it again this year. Transitioning from hockey player to successful business person. There's a lot of people that are athletes that are transitioning from that athletics into the professional world. How do we do that? Before we get into getting the finance degree and prepping for a career at the same time, not just getting the degree and getting good grades, but also building up your resume, which you do both. I need to know, Frank, what is your definition of excellence?
Yeah, this is my favorite question to hear on the podcast.
Oh, an active listener. I love to hear that.
Yep. Yeah. So my definition of excellence, kind of thought about this for a while, but I would say it's constant improvement to work ethic on a specific task or skill they're most talented at. So I think I kind of came up with this by looking at successful athletes or people in the business world. When you think about Michael Jordan or people like Tiger Woods or Connor McDavid for hockey, they're normally traditionally the most talented. But when you think of Michael Jordan, he's known for his work ethic. So that's my definition that I came up with for excellence.
All right. So you're a strength finder. You're not working on the things you're not good at. You're not going to get excellent. I'm never going to be an excellent organized guy. Well, I am an excellent organized guy, but I'm not going to be a detailed person. So why work on that? And when you're young, when you're in your 20s, if you're listening right now, Frank's done a lot of stuff. So he's got a 30-year-old, 35-year-old's experience. So he kind of has a lot of experience with what he's good at and what he's not good at. If you don't have a lot of experience, there's still time, because maybe you're really good is only 10, 15% better than you're not so good. But when you're out there getting it done, you're going to find things that are your unique ability. You're good at it and you like doing it. That's a unique ability. You could take the Strength Finder test, but we're talking about things that you're good at in your career or things that you're good at school. You're focusing on that plus hard work. So not thinking about it, not talking about it, but actually executing on hard work to improve your strengths, like Michael Jordan, like Jerry Rice. Well, that's fantastic. And we gotta get into your long life of, how old are you? 21?
22.
Long 22-year-old life, in which You played junior hockey. And those of you not from the Midwest or Canada, that's what you do after high school. If you're thinking about going pro, you go into junior hockey before college. And there's a transition there. You got to transition into this athlete. Sometimes you go to college, but you're moving to cool cities like Albuquerque, New Mexico. Way to go, Jaden Stiller. Got to live there, eat green chili, and play on the junior hockey team. So you went to junior hockey after college, after high school and college. You beat your own record. We're going to get into, well, you're beating your own record. You broke a 31-year-old record for production at College Works last year and about to beat it again. So 31 years, the first one stood, 1 year, the second one stood. I already know you get great grades. We already know you have a great resume. You're still a fun, wonderful guy. So how do you get to that position in life? We got to go way back to your high school. What was life like in high school? What were you doing? Were you charging so you could make sure to get into a good college, or did you just luck out?
Yeah, I was kind of like thinking about that. I think I kind of did luck out a little bit. I wouldn't say academics were at the front of my mind the whole time, which is maybe something I maybe regret a little bit now. But I always like really enjoyed like working, so I got like a part-time job as early as I could. Started working my freshman year, and then a big part of my life was playing sports, being as active as I could, which I think is kind of what started to develop my work ethic. And then, yeah, just really did as much as I could with my free time. Like me and my friend Tyler, we ran a like lawn care business for a couple of years in high school. Then, yeah, just worked, hung out with my friends, and tried to get the best grades that I could, but probably could have done a little bit better.
And so your work resume and your athletic resume is what got you into your college, not necessarily your grade resume.
Yeah, I would say my grades they weren't bad. I think I could have been probably a 4.0 student. I was a little bit below that in high school.
So you had high standards. So you were spinning all the plates back then. You got your school plate going, and you got pretty darn good grades if you're almost a 4.0. You got your sports thing going pretty good if you go into what I call semi-pro. You got your friend thing going. So you've always been able to spin these plates. What do you think the key? What was the key? What did you figure out in high school that some people haven't even figured out yet? They're listening right now and they think they can only go to school, or they can only work, or if I work 20 hours a week, it ruins my social life. So what did you know in high school that other people don't know now?
Yeah, I think just a big factor in my life growing up. So I'm the youngest of like 9 kids. So I always had a big family, saw them like always doing the same things that, I wanted to do. They were always very good at like athletes, and then they were also going to school. So I had a lot of good like role models as far as like my siblings went. But then my dad, he was a big role model for me. He'd work pretty much 7 days a week all throughout my childhood, like 12 days or 12 hours during the week. And then he'd work half days during the weekend. So I think a lot of the people around me were always just doing that, like managing their social life, being athletic, like my siblings all were, and then also like getting good grades as well too. So I think it was just kind of the environment around me, and really looked up to, people in my family. And so it was just something that I just kind of followed as well too.
So your reality growing up, you're lucky. Your reality growing up was a reality of efficiency, a reality of balance, a reality of achievement, a reality of excellence. So that's just what you knew. So you're the ninth one. They're like, okay, here's the program. Stamp this. You're going to go do this. Probably they screwed up the first one, though.
Well, first one, actually, she was a little bit, she actually was very successful. So,
damn it. Then only I screwed up the first one. Shout out to Frank's parents for hitting 9 home runs. I'm sure I've heard about a few of them. But so what about somebody that doesn't have that perfect reality? And you met a bunch of people through social life, work, sports that maybe don't have the great role models and aren't the 9th of 9 successful kids. What would you have done then to sort out your reality?
Yeah, I think you can kind of like look at it as the same way, where I definitely feel blessed to be able to have like those good role models who, ended up seeing success in sports and in their career. But then you can also see it from like the flip side too, where, you see what somebody does, and if they're not like in a position where you want to be in, well, then it's like the exact same thing of, instead of following their path, almost doing like the complete opposite of what they did.
Yeah.
So it's, either way, whether you have a situation like I was in where you have just like a great like standard and role models. If you don't have that, and you kind of want to be in a different position than you see the other people around you, well, it's pretty easy then too, because then it's just almost doing like the opposite and focusing on the opposite things that you see the people around you doing.
So I always say find a different role model. So I'm sure you had friends that used your family as their role model, but I like what you're saying because I think back to it. Whenever I think about working for someone else, I think about Paul Jakubowski, and I think how horrible it was working for him and how I decided to do the exact opposite of him to be a better boss. That's good advice. Do the opposite of your bad examples. And maybe you have good family examples, and you've got some friends that are kind of a little ruffians dragging you down, and you decide, you know some people, I know some people that work with us right now that have decided to kind of distance those people and hang out with the people that are dragging them up. So do the opposite of the bad examples. And that's constantly improving through hard work, things that you're most talented at too. So you can look at, okay, what am I most talented at? Who I could go find some mentors in that arena to teach me, or I could do the opposite, not just the overall general view. So you're in high school, you're doing all this stuff, you got this great example, and then you went to college. When did you realize that you wanted to get a finance degree, and why did you want to do that?
Yeah, so that I think kind of stems from my dad as well too. He went to college for like food engineering and then got like an engineering job, and now he works on like the business side. So I'd always kind of ask him, like, why didn't he just go to school for finance, or like if you were to go back, would he go like the business route? So he's kind of, I had a lot of conversations with him about that, and then he also does like a lot of his own like management for his money, and he kind of show me what that looks like and kind of show me his investing. And it's always something that just really like fascinated me at the end of the day. So I'm just kind of like getting like that exposure, and I'd always kind of pepper him or ask him a lot of questions. I was always very curious. Like the people that I'd meet in my life, like my friends' parents, I'd always ask them questions about their career, and finance was always something that kind of like stuck out to me, and something that I really enjoyed learning about and then enjoy doing as well too.
How many of your friends would ask other parents what the parents did for a living and how that works and what that means?
Yeah, I don't really think it's too many of my friends. I think I was always just a very curious
Yeah, you're the only
curious
one.
person.
And what a waste of resources. You want to get excellent, you want to figure out your life. You've got this walking laboratory, but nobody in your age group ever asked people what they do. My kids' friends have never asked me. In fact, my daughter will not listen to me about anything having to do with work, getting ahead in life. Like I'm not even allowed to talk about it with her. It's just what an obvious opportunity. You got 20 best friends when you're in high school. You got so many damn friends. Or if you have five, what do their parents do? What do they like about it? What do they not like about it? What's your day-to-day life like? And so your dad's talking to you about his day-to-day life, and you're figuring out, oh, I like that. And then you're talking to other parents, probably figuring out, oh, I never want to do that. Oh, that sounds cool. And so over your high school, you use this laboratory you're living in to figure out what you wanted to try out the first time. And so you go to college, you're done with hockey, you're done with high school, you go to college, and you already kind of know what you want to do. And so you enter into school, and what you're in school right now, senior? You have one more
I'm
year,
a
right?
junior.
You have one more year
Yep.
after
Yeah.
this. One more year
Yep.
after this. You enter in high school, you came in as a finance major. And what was life like in high school? What were you doing there? And what were you preparing for
In high school or in
in
college?
college?
Yeah. So yeah, I took a gap year to play hockey. So I came to when I was a freshman in college. I was a year older than every other freshman, and I don't know. Maybe I was a little bit embarrassed about being a year older, but I was really like excited to go to college and kind of start my career journey. Being successful in my career is something I've always like wanted to do and kind of aspired to do. So it was pretty cool going to college, and really like my mindset, especially going there a year later than like most people did. I really saw it as like a great opportunity to like start to like get ahead. And because most people, at
And
least a
so
lot
your
of my
mindset
friends,
in
are just
high school was not to get ahead. Your mindset was, I'm going to do my sports thing. I'm going to do what my family did. I'm going to try to be good at all these different things. And then you just saw what happened. Now you've had a mindset change. Okay. I need to get ahead. Where did you go to high school, by the way?
Anoka High School.
In what city?
Yeah, it's in Anoka, so it's like 30
Of
minutes
course
from
it
like the
is.
main
Of course it
campus.
is. You live in a state of small towns. All the high schools are named after the city. Shout out to Anoka. And how far is that away from college, or where do you go to college now?
Yeah, so I go to the University of Minnesota. So it's about 25, 30-ish minutes away.
Oh, I didn't know it was that close. So you lived in a suburb of Minneapolis and went to college at the University of Minnesota.
Yep.
So you already had a feel for that big campus and that cool vibe, and knew the city, and you knew you wanted to go to. Not a really easy school to get into, and there's so many schools in Minnesota. And when you got there, partially by luck, you decide, okay, now it's time to get ahead.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Especially like I always looked at like freshman year and like sophomore year. It's kind of like the easiest times to get ahead because a lot of freshmen and sophomore in college, they kind of take the first year or two to really just enjoy being in college and kind of use it as like an adjustment period. And for me, that got me really excited because a lot of
Yeah.
people do use it for that reason. And so I really viewed it as like anything I do now, like none of these people that I'm going to be like competing with in my career after college, like they're not utilizing these 2 years. And so I just kind of viewed it as the easiest time to get ahead and did everything that I could to utilize that time.
So you pass them while they're standing still.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. That was kind of my goal going into college.
So now you're a junior going into your senior year. Do you still think that that's what you do that stands out? And most people that listen to this don't work at College Works, and I don't have very many current College Works people on. I do have quite a few alumni, but it's a lot of different people. Um, and most people listening don't know what it means to do what you're doing. Right? You go to school like everybody else does. You got to study. You got a harder major than everybody else. And then your intern year, you ran the small business with, I don't know, you probably had 3 crews, right? Because you did a whole lot of business. Oh, no, you had a
No, I
small
didn't.
first year. You didn't do that
Yeah,
great
I
your
didn't
first
do
year.
that well.
You were on the
No, I
red
didn't.
flag list. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Mason saved you. So you didn't do
Yep.
great that first year, but you worked your ass off. And so you're going to school and you're still working 20, 25 hours a week in the school year, and then 50, 60, 70 hours a week in the summer. Then you came back and you're going to school, but now you have like a 30-hour work week to kind of lead this team and help them create greatness. They're depending on us. So you're doing whatever it takes. Do you think that that's the difference? Everybody else, you're making the most out of their wasted time while they're standing still. You're lapping them a couple times. They take a water break, you don't, and get another lap in. Is that why you broke the record last year and you did so right by your team?
Uh, I think so a little bit. I mean, my freshman year, like, I really like competed with, my mindset. Like I was competing or, comparing myself, I guess, to like my college friends. And then like my second year when I was a district manager, my sophomore year, they kind of changed that, like who I was, I guess, like competing with to like other college students who are also like working really hard. So I think that like drove me harder and like motivated me a lot more to be able to do whatever it took to and spend a lot of time to achieve like what I did as a district
So
manager.
high school, you're competing with high school people. Freshman year of college, you're competing with your college buds at a good college. High school is the general population. Sophomore year, you're competing with the top people in that college. Who are you competing with now? Your junior year.
Uh, let's say just probably myself, like myself last year, just doing better, being better. And there's still like cool people in the college works realm, I guess, like other district managers who are also, doing really well. And, my goal is to, obviously be the best, to give like people I work with like a really good experience working with me and working at college works.
It's easy to forget that you weren't always the best. I forgot about that. And I've thought about that a couple times recently because I know there was two of you that were really suffering on Mason's team that he worked really diligently to. Didn't give up on him. He didn't ditch him. He worked very diligently because he knew you could do it, and he put some energy into finding you out of 20, 25 people he had to interview to get that one person that he thought could do a good job. Um, and so you're competing against one group, then you you're raising the bar on who you compete with. You're making the most out of people's wasted time, maybe a little bit of both, but you also kind of faltered and you had this new group of people. It was your freshman year. Was it your freshman year you were an intern?
Yep. Yeah.
So you have this new group of people that you could be competing with, but you kind of got your ass kicked by like almost half of them, right? You were like right on
Yeah.
dead average, weren't you?
Yeah, I was barely made it to Cancun. I think it was probably the lowest revenue intern there. So yeah, it was not a good feeling to say the least.
So how did you get through that? How do you get through not being the best when you're kind of used to always being good? How do you re-energize instead of getting depressed and calling it a day and going home? How do you stay in the fight
Yeah,
when you're not completely way? And 90 grand, you still made $18,000. I mean, average for an unbelievable group of people. Hourly wise, you probably worked a lot of hours, but you're still making more than 20, 25 bucks an hour. You just worked a lot of hours, pocketed a lot of money. There's a lot of good, but you and I are competitive people. And I got a trophy over here with a hole in it because I shot it when I didn't win. We don't like to lose. And we think of anything but first place as losing. So what did that do? How did you get through it? How did you stay engaged?
yeah. So there's a kind of a big turning point, like my intern year, that really stands out to me is I like went to like our paint training house is really when I met a lot of the other interns that I was working with that were on Mason's team, and I was just dead last and saw everybody else around me, and I was kind of just like, wow, they're really no different than me. And kind of from there on out, it was just really kind of like looking inward rather than comparing myself. Where I couldn't go back and change the work ethic or the results that I got the 2-3 months before that. But I kind of made a vow to myself that I was going to work as hard as I possibly could throughout the rest of the summer and to accomplish like the best results that I possibly could, and to give myself like an opportunity to come back and stay with College Works as a district manager. So it was more so just competing with, I guess, myself really at that point, because I wasn't going to catch Lydia, who I think when I was at 25K, I think she was at 250K. So it was more so just making the best of the opportunity for the time that I had left and making sure I just really don't regret anything at the end of the day.
Maybe you shared that story with some people, but you know that whenever you're a district manager at College Works, we do these one-on-one meetings and we do like life goals that don't have to do anything with work. And so everybody makes a strategic plan for their life. You've done it. You moved on to phase 2 with that. But and I'm doing it with people and there's kind of a few of them. I don't know how many that have that in there. Like one of their initiatives has something to do with growth, and they have be better every day. I think your roommate Jaden, that green chili hating, Albuquerque hating maniac. Albuquerque, New Mexico rules, and green chili is the best food complement and condiment that has ever been in existence. And Frank's roommate Jaden is totally wrong and just a sucky person for not thinking that. But I think he has a be better than I was the day before. I've seen every day I wake up better than I was the day before. Compare myself, am I improving daily? A lot of this self-comparison. And I wonder if it's because these people, and maybe you shared that, or is it because you can't always win? You make the most out of people's wasted time and do better. You can raise the bar on who you're competing with over and over. But eventually you get to a point where you're not always winning. You just got to say, I'm just going to do better tomorrow. It's like the AA mantra, one day at a time. So that was a shift for you your sophomore year. And then you stayed with that your junior year. You kind of honed in
Yep.
on that. So you found that you have a strength. You have a unique ability to kind of help yourself grow. And you've engaged in that as one of your things to be excellent at.
Yeah, I would definitely say so, because but at the end of the day, you never really want to be the smartest, most successful person in a room, because it's not really like motivating. It's kind of puts an imaginary like glass ceiling. And so I always really enjoy the feeling of being average and doing like whatever I can for like my mindset to feel like whatever I'm doing to feel average, because then you know there's always like more to accomplish, there's more
And
to do.
you're not
Um,
really average. You just keep raising the bar on what group you're averaging.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So you're not very old. I was just thinking the average age of the people on this podcast is probably about 35, and you're one third less than the average age. So you've had some life lessons that I think can help people my age, even older than me, which I don't even know if there are people older than me, at least my body. They're not older than my 97-year-old body. When you look back at your manager year, you're just a college kid, you're a freshman. Why would anybody that's 55 ever listen to that kid? Why would any other college senior ever listen to that kid? But what can you give to that audience that you took away as a manager at College Works Painting that was just life changing, or maybe just year changing? And I think you've already given us one. You changed who you compared yourself to, and you looked to get better every day because you wanted to get through it. And you ended up making 18, 20 grand and having a great summer. Just average of it. You were average. You were average of a kind of an elite group of people. Besides that, what did you take away from your manager year?
Yeah, I think I had a lot of like really good mindsets when it came to like sports growing up, but it's very different when you compare it to bring that mindset over to like school or to work. And something in sports that I always like learned was like, there'd be times I like look back and kind of like have some regret about like always wishing that I would have done more to get a better result than I had. And so I think that's what kind of really stuck with me, and what really like kind of transferred over to like my school and like my work life was really just being able to kind of like sit down at the end of each day and look at what I did throughout that day, and kind of like looking forward to like the next day as well too. That by the end of the day, whether that's 6 months from now, a couple of years from now, I don't like look back at like the effort or the work ethic that I had or how I spent my time and have like any regret about that. Because that's kind of like what fuels me on like a day-to-day basis, is just living a life that I'm not going to like regret, whether that's through hanging out with my friends, like the grades that I get in college or the results that I get with work. It's just trying to do everything that I possibly can so that when I get to the next day or 6 months from now or a year from now, like I don't look back and regret not working harder, because you never really truly do regret like being lazy at the end of the day.
So you were sucking
it's
your freshman year at work, probably doing pretty well at school, and you started to implement this daily reflection, probably in that comparison to yourself, to eliminate regrets. Did I ever talk to you about karma yoga, the philosophy of karma yoga, Hindu philosophy?
I think you have. I don't really remember too much though.
So the philosophy is you don't control the outcome. You don't. Something crazy happened. There's a giant earthquake right now. We're recording a great podcast. There's a giant earthquake. There's been 2 earthquakes this week, and I've had to run out of this room during a Zoom already this week. Destroys the podcast. Well, there's no podcast. We're done. We have to redo the whole thing. We don't control the outcome. All we control is, are we doing a good job right now? And the same thing happens, you're at work and you do everything you can to set yourself up for the win, execute for the win, and you don't get the deal or you don't get the job or whatever it is. If you did everything you could, the outcome's really in someone else's hands. Maybe the new trade wars that your buddy Donald Trump started has affected the company and they're not buying anymore. Maybe the exchange rate that's gone down 17% in the last month and really affecting my boat rental in Europe has caused them to not execute on their plan. You don't know. You don't control that. You control the process. So the philosophy of karma yoga, and if you're in a car right now, listen to Frank. Hopefully you're taking notes. You can always rewind a little bit, but here's the philosophy of karma yoga, straight from the Hindu religion in India, told to me by my great friend Sanjay Kapoor. Shout out to Sanjay Kapoor and the Sona Group. If you have clarity of intent, you got a real good plan. Purity of heart, you're acting purely and morally and you have sincerity of action. And that's where people miss. They got the plan, they got the heart, they don't act. They're wasting that time you're talking about taking advantage of. Then you let go of the outcome and enjoy the process. And that's what you did. You let go of the outcome and decided, I don't control the process. I don't control the outcome. I control the process. And you invested every day in getting better and better and better. And at the end, you totally grew, really prepared yourself through those daily reflections and all that, all those habits for the next year when you had a record-breaking year by a rookie. So it's not like normal people don't break records in companies until they've been there for a little while. You broke it the first year. So what's your takeaway from that year? And that was a good one, by the way. See if you can top that one.
Yeah, I think it's really like exactly kind of what you just said. I really kind of let go of the trying to hit like a certain number or a certain goal. And really, like you said, just have like purity of intent and just focus on what I could control. Meaning that, you know, my rookie district manager year, like, yeah, I wanted to beat everybody because I was pretty competitive. But it was kind of nice because I had really no expectations. I was probably the lowest revenue district manager that year and really wasn't expected to do much, but I knew that I could be really great at that job. And so what I did was just control everything that I could control to the best of my ability. I was super organized. I did whatever I could to help the people that I was working with be successful. And like through focusing on what I could control and, you know, kind of doing everything I could day to day, I think really like drove the results that I got. It wasn't like if I was focused on the results that I got, I wouldn't have done very well. But I was just very focused on what I could control. And I feel like that really is what helped me do so much better my district manager year.
It also helps you kind of let go of the bad stuff. I don't control that. I'm going to get back to what I control. Oh, it rained today. I don't control that. Oh, I popped my tire. What do I control there? I control fixing my tire right now. When you focus on, and it's sincerity of action, not purity of action, purity of heart, clarity of intent, sincerity of action. And if you're listening right now, this applies to whatever you're doing. You want to get a great law degree and you're in law school. Are you studying when you're at the library or are you screwing around? Sincerity of action. When you're in business right now and you're off in a sales internship, are you grinding it out and actually making the calls, or are you making a call, checking your email, making a call, checking your email? There's sincerity of action, focused action, focused on intent. You're adjusting your goals. Your intent changed. Your intent changed your manager year into learning a lot. Your intent changed your district manager year to I think I can beat it. Your intent changed this year because I can tell you're not. It's not that you're not goal oriented. You're excellence oriented, and the goal is second. Your goal is secondary. You got a team of people. Their goals come before your goals. It's a thankless job being a leader, right? It's all about everybody else, but it's so much better. And I've seen this year where you're like, yeah, whatever. I'm just going to do my best, whatever. I'm going to grow every day. And then all of a sudden, it's, wait a second. I can put up a number that people are going to have a real hard time touching for 32 years. And you still have that there, but that's like secondary. Because if you don't get to $2 million team this year, or you don't break the record this year, you can sit there and go, no, but I'm a different person. No, but I accomplished this and that. And once you let go of the outcomes and you're enjoying the process, man, life's better. So I just, by the way, I just got yelled at by my daughter upstairs. Shout out to my daughter, Kennedy, who will never listen to this podcast, just freaking out and yelling at me because I haven't figured out what I'm doing for her mom's birthday on her mom's birthday day. And I figured out a party on a different day. Why didn't you tell me? Just freaking completely out. Because that's pretty mature thought. Pretty mature thought. It's very difficult to let go of the outcome, but when you do, it's so powerful to just be enjoying every day, enjoying that growth every day. And I didn't get to be a millionaire by the time I was 25, but I enjoyed the path every day, and I'm at a better place right now. There's a lot of people that want to be millionaires by the time they're 25, and they haven't even started working yet. So then you get to this year, and this is a different year, same thing all over. What's the big takeaway this year?
Yeah, the takeaway this year was just kind of looking at what I did last year and kind of critiquing myself of things that I felt like I could have done better to kind of make the people around me more successful. And I think, last year I would say I was pretty focused on, a certain goal. Again, I think it was kind of just in the back of my mind. And I think kind of was maybe a little bit at the beginning of this year too. But it really, like, I could honestly like kind of care less about the result that I get this year. And it's more so just making the people that I work with as successful as possible. Because like when that happens, like you kind of said at the end of the day, like it's not really going to matter my own personal success. Like if everybody else around me hits their goals and is really successful, like that's kind of like why I do this job. And so that will be like success in my eyes. I'll make like a really successful year for myself, whether I, in the first district manager to do 2 million or not, as long as all the people around me, they accomplish what they want to do, working with me, that's where like the most fulfillment comes from doing this job. And that's kind of what success means in my eyes, doing this job as well too.
Yeah, longer term. You got a longer term vision. 1 year, $2 million, make a bunch of money. Who cares? Get another record. Oh well. 1 year, change everyone's lives. 1 year, help people launch into the stratosphere of what they end up doing versus what they thought they were going to do. That's lifelong relationships. That's skill set of how you did that you can reflect on. Very mature way of looking at it. So I got to do this. I don't do this ever, but we just got to stop for a second and do a little shout out for the parents, because obviously, unlike my kids, you were raised very, very well. So what do you take from? I got the work ethic from the dad and the finance from the dad. What's the big gifts you're thankful for that your parents gave you that other people in the world should be looking for from one of their mentors?
Yeah, I credit a lot to my parents. I feel like they did a really good job raising me as a person.
Raising as a person.
Yeah,
I can't stand when Gen Z does that. I see it in the essays that I'm helping people write for college. I've grown as a person. We know you're a person. So all the good things they did raising you, you don't need that as a person.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, like my dad, I would say like pushes me an incredible amount to, achieve whatever I can. But at the same time, it's not to be super successful in just a career. It's more so like be a super successful person. And,
life training.
Yep. It's a very like different definition to everybody. Like some people, it's, they define their success as a person just strictly based on their career. But I think, through my conversations with, him, it's a lot bigger than that. It's, having a successful family. If you're a family person, it's like just being a really good person. And then, my mom, she's a incredibly hard worker. Her career was in sales before she became like a full-time mom when she stopped working. And now she still is kind of in like the sales, and she's like incredibly gifted at her job and super talented as well. But like her success and like what her true passion was raising a great family, and she was super family oriented. And it was super cool to kind of see that and kind of have those values kind of instilled from both my parents. It's something I definitely look up to them a lot.
And not everybody gets that, but shout out to your parents. They did raise a really good kid. From me to your parents, your son is one of the ones that everybody wants to spend time with because of his values and who he is, including me. I love hanging out with you. I'm going to ask you though, you made some sacrifices. This will be my last question, then I'll let you get back to shoveling snow or whatever you guys are doing up there now. You made some sacrifices that at the time you're like, screw this, I'm going to go do whatever X is. I'm not going to focus on my life. Looking back in the last few years, usually I'm talking to people that are like 40 or 50, and I say, what sacrifice did you make in your 20s that you're so glad you did and you were so bummed that you were doing at the time? In your case, it's a couple of years ago. What's the big sacrifice you made that you look back, you're like, God, I'm so glad I did that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, I was thinking about this question. I always like personally really enjoyed like kind of having the opportunity to make sacrifices, because I always kind of like looked at it like I did like my freshman year. Like I'd kind of look and try to figure out like, the best times to make sacrifices that were going to like most benefit me. Like my
So
freshman year
meaning
was,
a lot of people don't have a lot of options. Yeah.
yep,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. So, my freshman year, I made the sacrifice of, maybe not partying every weekend and instead, driving home and working all weekend. And I think like one of the big, like kind of daily sacrifices that kind of thought about was, it was like last year, it was like a Friday night, I believe. And I was going to go hang out with Jaden, my roommate, and one of my other good friends, Tyler. And I was just going to go like hang out with them at their house. I had to work at 8 a.m. So I knew I couldn't, go out drinking or be hungover. So I want to be at my best at work. And on my way, I was driving there and thought we were just going to be hanging out at their house. And then they said, oh no, we're going out to the bar. And I could have, gone out there, but if I knew I would have gone to the bar, I probably would have drank and not, been my best at work the next day. So instead of doing that, I just turned the car around and went back to my house and just kind of went to bed. And, it was a tough sacrifice to kind of like make in the moment. But I think like it was just doing what I had to do in the moment to kind of set myself up best for success. And I kind of owed it to the person that I was going to go work with the next day to not show up and be hungover. So that definitely like made it a little bit easier. That wasn't just for myself, but I think like making those sacrifices. I mean, I pretty much make a sacrifice like that every single week, and so just doing it at like the right time. I've also like missed like my childhood's best friends, like babysitter. She was one of my older friend or older siblings, like best friend, and I was really close with her. I missed like the majority of her wedding. So I was like working all day and showed up just at the end, which, sucked, but it was just a sacrifice that, looking back, like I unfortunately like don't regret. That owed it, to myself and the people that I was working with to, make that sacrifice.
So the best you can be day to day, am I a better version of myself today for yourself and for the people that depend on you?
Yep, exactly.
That's a really cool story to end on. And Frank, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Shout out to those parents. You did a good job, mom and dad. Thanks for being on the show, and thank you for sharing your excellence.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I hope my parents listen to this. So,
Oh, I think they will. Have a great weekend. Happy Easter.
Yep. Thanks, Matt.